evening over over TDD, and Smudge ends it with, "I feel bad for Erigu if he tries to catch up and chat again." I if I've learned to stay away from TDD discussions. Um, I have a my personal software process um, doesn't include them. This happens because I do write line of business applications, and the cadence is pretty tough for me. That's not to say that I couldn't or even shouldn't use them. I use test cases and just user tests, like actual um, like user action tests, like handwritten stuff. But maybe somebody, wink, wink, hint, hint, should do a video series on TDD, and I would check it out, and you can turn me into a believer. But it sounds like from the chat that there are actually really good opinions on both sides. Okay. So, there are problems in the way this is being done. And I want to get to a refactor point and then talk about them. And it has a lot to do with how much I'm using the same objects over and over again. Like I'm constantly going into the request sender, I'm constantly going into the target. That's part of it. It also has to do with when we first built the game, we did it assuming that it would just be a console app, right? It'd be one player in this game, and so that one player's world was all of it. Well, now we're passing around this target, and we don't want to rely on getting the target from the player. We want to grab that from someplace else as well. This comes back to the point earlier, and I think it was Smudge talking about making this actually a context. This would be the idea. It would be to turn all this into something like a context where we would build the context first. So we'd grab all the relevant parts that we need, then we'd pass the context down through the channel, and then at the very last step, we'd use that context to create a game response, right? To kind of clean all this up. But we want to get to a point where we're at least accomplished, right? Before we get into the actual runtime issues that might be present, we want to accomplish implementing the pattern. And we also want to prove to ourselves that we're sending everything through that we're going to need. So we have access to it. We don't need to change our signature up here to include more things, which is another success of the pattern if it works. The success being that we could take the architecture we have outside of this pattern and with very minimal changes implement a better way to structure all of this. All right, so no more red, which is good. Now let's get rid of that in the finalized handler. Oh, I am reading chat, and then Tony says, at this point we should agree to disagree and drop the sidebar for poor Aries' sake. I say keep it going. You guys, you don't know each other, right? And I think it's really good to engage other smart people, and see where your respective ignorances lie, right? I was talking about the Isaac Asimov essay about wrongness. I think that was the title, wrongness. But if we were saying that there are degrees of being wrong, and we're all wrong to some degree. And one of the things I really enjoyed about it was he talks about the premise of the Earth being flat, and we look back on that now as, and I'm misquoting this, mispresenting it horribly, but his idea with the Earth is flat being that, at the time, we look back at them now and we're like, oh, those guys were idiots, and how could anyone ever believe the Earth was flat? Well, they had really good reasons, right? That's his point, is that they had really, really good reasons for believing that, scientific reasons at the time. So, breadth first, search your field of knowledge, and I think TDD is a great one. I've got some biases against TDD that have to be 5 years old at this point. And the whole idea behind that is saying that, if I've got things that I'm sticking to that are 5 years old, I guarantee there's some assumptions in there that are begging to be challenged. I think I can get rid of this, I think. Alright, and this, ensuring the game response is properly populated. I think I can also get rid of this, since I'm making sure it's happening other places. And honestly, if this is wrong here, it shouldn't go here anyway. I mean, it could, but yeah, I don't think it's the right place for this. Hang on, I'm catch up with chat for a few seconds because, well, it's good, right? If you're looking in chat right now, it's good. There's smart people saying smart things with differing opinions. All right. And ReSharper is telling me to invert this. Very much the same thing we did before, where it's like, just bail early. Bail as early as you can. So if this is the login, just return. We don't care about it anymore. Okay. So let's go ahead and build. Say what? Oh, LL code returns a path. That's cool. So in our command handler, right, we've got all this game response stuff. We never actually returned the game response. Alright, so everything succeeded. So, we come back over to our hive mind. And let's just, because I started making these videos 45 minutes long to kind of give people who were coming in the day after, and and who were from Belgium or Holland or even or the UK, as I know a few people are, that are coming in to have just like 45 minutes, have it be really concise, have it be on topic, and be able to walk away with seeing some code being changed or see some thought being run through. So let's go ahead and wrap it up in the next 3 minutes. But let's look at the problem we were trying to solve, and where it's gotten us. Oh wait, so I'm sorry. So Twitch and chat, it makes it really easy for me to spot when my name's being used. Attorney says, if there's one thing I had to critique on Erica's coding style, I can't stand one-line if statements without braces. And Smudge says, I refuse to use squiggles. Yeah, so I'm actually in the same boat. Like, I'll go back to that real fast because I think that's a great point. I really do. So I typically can't stand this either, to be quite frank. But, and I think this goes into a lot of what they were saying in chat, is whatever environment you're in is going to lend a lot to your coding style, whether you like it or not. Like, and so if part of the style guide, and if you've got is Style Cop still in vogue? Well, depending on where you were, you could be using like .NET 2.0, 3.5. You'd be coding to a very specific .NET version, and you could have very, very explicit style guides and very specific team processes or team software processes. And so, for better or worse, it's about consistency. So if you're on a team that says, hey, look, this is just how we do things, well, that's how you're going to do it, right? Because otherwise, when they run a code review on you, you're going to have all these flags because you broke the style guide. And they've got all their style cut rules set up, and it's going to hurt you. So I've kind of gotten into this vogue out of just habit, but because I write a lot of JavaScript as well, and because JavaScript can be so spaghetti-y, I definitely prefer a little bit of explicit syntax. But yeah, and Turney agrees, just consistency. Everything should look as if it's been written with one voice, and if you're in a shop where you have a really structured style guide or even our development practices that involves, for example, TDD, you aren't doing anybody any favors by going rogue and injecting your opinion, right? So just stay the course, make sure everything looks nice and neat and tidy, and everyone will be happy. All right, so that's 7:30. So next week, I'm going to figure out another design pattern to do in the same 2 days, 45 minutes. My plan is, in the interim, since we're done with the sharing responsibility, I'm pretty sure it doesn't work the same way that it used to, so I need to go back through and tweak some things. So that's what I'm going to do in the off hours. And then next week, we'll do the next design pattern. And I'll do my best to catch it with anything in between. But thankfully, that's what GitHub's for. So you'll be able to see any of the check-ins I do between now and then. And I'll try to be a little diligent in terms of what I change. Smudge says, check out Owen during downtime, particularly important with VNext, .NET 5 moving forward. You know what? I was on the fence until you said that, because yeah, .NET 5 it's going to break some hearts, right? It's going to break some hearts. If you're in a shop now that had a hard time transitioning over to NVC, yeah, good luck, because it's going to be vastly different for the best. But and Smudge was referring to that this mud Z should be a capital